Hi everyone! In this video I am going to be drawing eyes again, but in this case I'm not just going to do one, I'm going to do both because I've been seeing that a lot of people have been commenting on how they draw one eye and then they can't get the other one to look the same. So I'm going to show you a few tricks that's going to help you figure out how to draw two eyes evenly. First, we'll pretend like I have a whole face here and I'll just draw my proportional lines here. So this is the halfway down from the face. This is the center of the face. And remember that the eyes are, or the face is 5 eye widths across. So if we start in the middle with 1 eye width, of course we want this to be the same on both sides. So I can use my pencil as a ruler. So I do this a lot, so I kind of have a good way of eyeballing it. Oh, such a bad joke. Just try and clean it up a little bit. So there's 1 and 2. Make sure they're the same. We'll do our 3rd. So usually when I'm drawing a full portrait, I just kind of lightly block in the facial features so I don't do one completely finished at a time, just because I usually end up having to make adjustments. So it's much easier to change things when you just have like a quick line drawing rather than like a fully shaded, detailed feature. So this is where I'm going to get like the main sort of sizes blocked out. That's going to help me draw this other side. So if you have a ruler or a straight edge, anything that's flat, basically you're just going to draw a parallel line. So parallel to this middle line. And I'm going to draw from the bottom of the lowest part of the eye. So that's right here. Just draw a little line across there. And then I'll do the same thing for the top. So we just need to make sure it's parallel because otherwise your eye is going to be quite a bit larger. So just brushing the top of the lid right there. And from there, then I know where the highest point and the lowest point of the eye are going to be. I can do the same with really any point on the eye that I feel I need to work on. Like for example, like this part of the tear duct, I could just make a little motion of where that will be. The bottom of the iris. So now I have this all kind of blocked out. That's going to help me figure out where all of those points are going to end up. And this may not seem helpful right now, but it will be helpful. So now what I need to do is kind of focus on the shape of the eye and sort of the angles that go with it. So we're doing just the opposite of what we did on the left side. And it's okay if it's not perfect right away. You can change it. That's what erasers are for. In that case, it's really important that we draw lightly so that we can erase. Draw it light till you get it right. It's way easier to fix things if it's lightly drawn. So just gonna have this lemon shape here, which is doing its job. Now I can go in and start kind of defining the shapes. So I noticed some of my lines kind of went over or under my guide rules that I created. I think this is why I like to draw in kind of a more sketchy style, because it's a lot easier to erase things and make changes than if I were drawing like really precise contour lines. I always laugh when I'm teaching younger students and I draw this way and they're like, "You're so scribbly. What are you doing?" And I was like, "It doesn't have to. You can clean it up later. It's fine. Just chill." It's kind of my advice for most people who are learning how to draw. Just chill. It's fine. It may be hard right away, but you'll get it. Don't worry about it so much. If you worry about perfection, that's what the problem is. Salvador Dali has a quote that I really like. He said, "Have no fear of perfection. You'll never attain it." I know that sounds like kind of a bummer, but it's true. We're not perfect. No one is perfect. Nothing we do is perfect. So just get over yourself. Totally fine. Now, when I'm comparing these two, I can start to notice any sort of differences between the two. So, do I see anything that's standing out that isn't quite the same? And what I'm noticing is the tear ducts are slightly different. And then I think this is just slightly lower than this. So I can either change this side or this side. If I were looking at a person or looking at a photograph and comparing, obviously I would choose which one is more accurate. But in this case, I'm not looking at anyone, so I can just make up which one I think looks better and go from there. So I'm going to start to erase all these guidelines and then I will start cleaning things up from there. All right, so now that I've erased the guidelines, I'm going to go in and start defining my edges just a little bit more and start to kind of define the shapes to make them more similar. So I'm just kind of following the same lines, but just, mirrored. So we're flipping it. But also keep in mind, like when you're drawing a person, we're not always perfectly symmetrical. So not always exactly the same. There might be small inconsistencies that make us look slightly asymmetrical. And I think that makes us a little bit more interesting. So if we were all completely symmetrical and exactly the same, that would be pretty boring. I know that's the conventional definition of beauty, but you know what? I am a little bit unconventional. All right, so now the eyes are relatively even. I'm happy with them. I might make some changes later on as I start to develop them further. And so what I'm going to do is start making the rest of the details. So when we do the pupils, if you feel like you can't get them even either, you can bring that ruler back in and, mark your points, the top and the bottom of your circle. And of course, find the center. That's going to make a big difference because remember the pupil is always in the center of the iris because it's a hole, it's in the middle. Doesn't move around. It's not over here. It's not over here. I know some people may be like, well, duh, but you'd be amazed at who all the people that draw pupils like way down here and like weird goat pupils or something. Just we need to be aware of anatomy and stuff and understand it so that we can draw it accurately. And I can start to add in the eyelid depth here. And then the crease of the eyelids. I feel like this is usually where we see the most difference, where it's not always identical. But again, use your ruler. Like if you feel like it has to be perfectly symmetrical and exactly the same, find those high points, see where it lines up with. So like the highest point is just right past the pupil. So I do the same thing here. Like that's the highest point, okay? The lowest point lines up with the outside edge of the eye. So I can just make these sorts of marks to kind of help me figure out the angle that my eyelid crease is going so that I have the same sort of shape to it. And say the eyebrows, those could be anywhere. I'll just kind of block them in. And you know, eyebrows, I feel like, are the least symmetrical of all of these things. You know, they could be arched, they could be huge. I mean, like, I feel like one of my eyebrows is permanently arched higher than the other one, like I'm constantly giving someone a weird look. Maybe I just plucked it wrong. Who knows? So at this point, like, I've got everything kind of blocked in. The rest is just shading. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of speed up everything and just kind of do a quick time lapse to finish out the rest of this drawing. So happy watching. Here we go. One good tip for when you are drawing anything really is frequently take a step back. Always like prop your drawing up and walk at least 6 feet away from it. This is going to do a number of things for you that are very beneficial. Those things would be, first of all, you'll be able to tell if everything is evenly drawn, like if it looks as good up close as it does far away. That was always my downfall when I was getting started, is I'd draw like 2 inches away from my paper. But so it looked great up close, but once I got far away, I would notice inconsistency. It'd be like, oh, that's not even, or that's not level, that, I don't know, isn't the same as the other side. It looks kind of funky. But another thing that it helps you do is look at the values. So, I mean, you may think that you have a lot of really great value contrast when you're working up close. But when you take a step back, you may be like, oh, everything is really light and I can barely see anything. Or I've got one area that's really dark and the rest is really light and it doesn't quite give enough contrast, or it doesn't show the details that I want as well. Because something might pop when you're close to it and it might look awesome, but then when you step away, it just fades into the distance and doesn't really have any sort of emphasis to it. So taking a step back is going to really help you while you're drawing. I recommend to do it at least once or twice in the beginning stages when you're just sketching things out to make sure everything is level and even and symmetrical. But then keep doing it as you're developing your drawing further so that you can check on your values, check on your contrasts, make sure you have good emphasis when you're looking at everything. That's probably my best tip for you, is to always step back, see the big picture. So this is my finished drawing for right now. I mean, I could take this way further if I wanted to, but really all I'm here to show you is how to make things level. So have a straight edge handy, always line up your lines, use proportions, and you'll have features that are eventually going to be symmetrical. Don't expect it right away, but practice. Keep practicing. Don't give up. You can do it. Here's my pep talk. Have a great day.